All right, so I'm going to move on to Thursday night, and that brings us to the Vampire Diaries. Now, I'm having a love-hate relationship with my Vampire Diaries. I absolutely loved season one, two, and halfway through season three of the Vampire Diaries. I was the one who probably talked about this show the most. Like, I was such a huge fan of it. It was so great. There was so much like intrigue and mystery with all these characters, and they were actually willing to kill off core characters, which I thought was really cool. Just so much about the show was doing everything right. And then they brought on the originals, and originally I thought the originals was awesome. Then the originals ate the show. And I found that throughout season four of The Vampire Diaries, I spent most of my time just unimpressed. I found most of the stuff just redundant, like just repeating themselves over and over again. Um, I found that they started going off onto things that I just was like, I was so lost. I was so confused. I'm like, what is going on? Silas, this professor, this woman. There were so many things that I, I was just like, why are we trying to get so convoluted? And it just, I think for me, it got away from itself. At the heart of the show, it's about Nina Dobrev, Paul Wesley, and Ian Somerhalder. Now, I get it. We don't need to have a love triangle for every single season of the series, and I am 100% in agreement with that. However, the relationship and the bond between the brothers is huge, and that is a core part of the series. And then the relationship that Elena's character has with both Stefan and Damon are both very important to the series as well. Then we have her side core characters, which is Bonnie and Caroline and her brother Jeremy. Now, I've found that in the last couple seasons, they've played these characters like so loosely. Like, Bonnie has gotten completely like no love on this series. I mean, we're lucky if she even had a love interest for a minute on this series. And then you have Caroline, who has like dated every single character on the landscape of this show. So it's so uneven. Jeremy, like in the beginning, I liked what they did with him. Like, he was like sort of like this scruffy little boy who was like puppy love over Matt's character's sister. Like, and then all of a sudden in the second season he grew up, and like people noticed that, and I liked that they did that. But then they just kind of like left him to, I don't know. Like, how many times has Jeremy died? I get that we love our daylight rings. I get that we love that these rings, these other rings that they have been commissioned for them, hold these powers. But I mean, come on. I mean, if he's gonna die, just let him die. And then finally now Bonnie's dead, and like, so now she's stuck in between these two worlds. She's getting almost more storylines dead than she was on the show. I don't know. I have no idea what these writers are thinking. At this point, we've moved on to season five. They've moved off to college. Elena and Caroline have. Bonnie's told some ridiculous story that she's been away all summer, and so they don't even know that she's dead. I mean, what best friends don't like track down your other friend and realize that something is seriously wrong? So I have no idea how much. So we're already thinking to episode four of season five, and they still don't even know that Bonnie's dead. Only Jeremy knows, because Jeremy can still see dead people. And so Jeremy and Bonnie have been communicating, whenever she appears to him. But I mean, that's just not good enough. I'm sorry. So, all this time, like, everybody was willing to die for Elena, but like, we're not willing to tell Elena and Caroline and all of them that Bonnie has been dead for months now. I mean, give me a break. I don't know where to go. And then we have this whole Silas storyline going on. And in last episode, I'm trying to remember the character's name. She's new, and they've brought her on, and she's going to be basically the new, I guess, evil source. She's a witch, and she's the Katsia is her name, and we talked about her nonstop all last season. So it was Katsia and Silas that was spilling out of everybody's mouth last season, and so now at the end of last season, we find out that Stephen is actually no, sorry, Stefan is actually a doppelganger, as like me as like Elena is, and in last episode we find out that there was the original Elena who Silas was in love with. And Catherine is a doppelganger, and so was Elena. I, I just, I don't know. What is happening? And now Stefan is walking around town in Silas's, with as Silas, and Stefan has now turned into, I guess, back into being, like he's lost his humanity again. So he's turned back into the Ripper. Damon is just hoping that he can hold on to Elena because he knows at the end of the day, Elena's true love is Stefan. And I mean, last season when we finally got the Damon and Elena relationship together, they wasted all this time trying to convince us that because Damon turned Elena, that is the reason why she was basically being compelled to love him. I mean, come on. Like, can you not cheapen us? Like, the audience is smarter than this. So, like, we can't actually buy that Elena loves Damon. It has to be tainted. It had to be tainted in the fact that she was sired to him because he compelled her. I mean, because he turned her. Come on. I really, really want to love this show again. I really do. But they've had so many missteps. They've taken me down so many paths that I'm not at all interested in. I know that people are so sick of the triangle, and I am too. But I mean, at least if we're going to have it be that, Damon is in love with Elena and Elena is in love with Damon, let them have a relationship. Let it be a relationship. Then let it implode if that's what's going to happen, or let it be what she's ultimately going to be with. I mean, we watched Dawson's Creek, right? And we knew that there was the triangle between Joey and, the two love interests that were so grand on the show. And then at the end of the day, she ends up choosing the one that she's supposed to be with. And there's nothing wrong with that. So let us have these moments on this show if that's what you want them to be. If you want to build up for 4 seasons that Damon has been in love with Elena and then he gets her and then it's kind of under false pretenses. I mean, word, come on. Like, let's not go down that route. Anyway, so yes, I am still watching The Vampire Diaries. Yes, there are many things that are driving me crazy about The Vampire Diaries. And yes, I am still rooting for the show to become the show that I once really, really loved. And at this point, I don't know if it's going to happen. We're so caught up in this Silas and Katsia drama and Bonnie still being dead and nobody even knowing that she's dead. I'm just so over that. Like, I'm so over the fact that they're not even going to give her a proper goodbye with all of her friends. I mean, it's going to happen one day, but am I going to care? Am I going to care? That is my review of The Vampire Diaries.